Well, a very warm welcome again, ladies and gentlemen, to the next of our recordings. This is recorded on the organ built by Lance Foy using heel pipework and action from two different organs, a console from yet a third, the Trinity organ of St Michael's Newquay, ideal for the music of Messiaen. We're now in one of his masterpieces, the 9 Meditations on the Birth of Christ, La Nativité du Seigneur. The year is 1935, and Messiaen, for the first performance of this, considered the work to be so demanding he had 3 performers to play for the first performance. Of these 9 meditations, we learn of the Virgin and Child, the shepherds, eternal purposes, the Word of God, God's children, the angels, Jesus accepts suffering, the wise men, and Dieu parmi nous, God among us. When I played Dieu parmi nous at the end of Midnight Mass at St Michael's in Lewes in the 1990s, I could detect out of the corner of my eye that one member of the congregation hadn't gone home after Midnight Mass, but he sat through the entire performance and came up to me at the end and said, "Thank you, that was in the true spirit of Christmas." And it was the great composer Jonathan Harvey. And Messiaen's music takes us on a spiritual journey. This is music not for entertainment, but music that meditates on eternal truths. We're going to listen to the 4th meditation, Le Verbe. In it, we obviously come across the colours that Messiaen experienced, a whole kaleidoscope of yellows, white and gold, and we come across what's known as the chord on the dominant, where different inversions of this chord are transposed back so that the bass note always remains the same. And for Messiaen, this is the gradual turning of the kaleidoscope of colours. So as well as the chord on the dominant, we're introduced to some decitalas in Hindu rhythmic theory, and it works in the same way as medieval isorhythm. Later on in the piece, it's in 2 sections. The second section, the mood changes considerably when we suddenly find ourselves in the melodic ornamentation of a Gregorian plain chant sequence. Well, one of the main themes at the beginning is played by the pedals, fortissimo by the pedals, and Messiaen likens this to the spear leitmotif for Wotan in Wagner's Ring. I'm also minded at this first section, it almost reminds us of one of the great sonnets of John Donne. At the round earth's imagined corners, blow your trumpets, angels, and arise. Arise from death, you numberless infinities of souls, and to your scattered bodies go. And Messiaen thinks of Michelangelo's Last Judgment in the Sistine Chapel, where the angels play extremely long trumpets, announcing the end of time. Messiaen also tells us that the angels must have been extremely jealous of the humans, for it wasn't the angels God chose for the incarnation, but mankind. Messiaen gives us some biblical references, pointing us what to think about as we hear the music. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son. From his breast, before the dawn existed, he begat me. From the beginning, I am the image of the goodness of God. I am the word of life. Psalm 2, Psalm 109, wisdom, and of course 1 John. In the concluding section, we hear what Messiaen tells us resembles a plain chant sequence. Scholars such as Robert Sherlaw Johnson have suggested that the sequence referred to is the Victimae Paschali Laudes. Well, in my research, where I look at the ornamentation of this melodic weaving, it turns out that Messiaen actually plays the entire Victime Pascali sequence. Sometimes we hear tonal harmonies underneath, but underpinning the wrong notes. So the tonal harmony works against the melody. Sometimes we hear a reference to plain chant Gregorian mode 7, but also we hear the plain chant distorted in Messiaen's second mode of limited transposition. Just as it's perfectly possible to sing God so loved the world at a carol service, so here in this piece, which takes the propers for midnight mass and tells us that the Word of God existed before the dawn. So we're able to be confronted with Christ's passion and resurrection as a reason for incarnation. So from La Nativité du Seigneur, here is the fourth meditation, le Verbe.